jug in a box stand.
Yeah, but,
Coffee cup.
you know,
Coffee can, I should say.
I think once you get a pea jug done, it's done.
There's no washing it out.
Not to me.
No,
I just dispose of it.
Yeah.
But can I get closer?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How can we? I'll let you do this. I don't want to break your toys. Yeah. All right.
Well, boys and girls, today we are with the one and only Mr. Dave here at the Bass Shop. So you've mounted 3 deer for me. Is that right? My papaws I killed in Kansas, or that he killed in Kansas a couple years ago. My deer 2 years ago, and then you're doing this other one for me now.
Let's say yes.
Let's just. How many deer do you have hanging up in there?
Oh, I've got over 100. I usually do about 150 a year on average.
Man,
so
that's on top of the elk and the axis deer and the aoudad and the bear rugs.
Yeah, a ton of ducks, a lot of bass. Yeah. 100 or so skulls.
Yeah.
Those are shoulder mounts. So.
Yeah.
Just a typical taxidermy shop.
If you walk in here, which everyone needs to after listening to this podcast, you need to come in, and whether you're from Monroe or not, you need to come in and see everything that this cat has to offer. But I'm looking at some brim over there that I'm like, I want that in my house.
I don't know about that alligator.
Or the alligator, yeah. That alligator's pretty nice. And you did a complete recreate on that, didn't you?
On the alligator?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is a replica head.
Yeah. You would never think that was a replica head.
Yeah.
That dude is a dinosaur. How long was that alligator?
I think it was molded off of a 12.5-foot alligator.
Dang. Yeah, that's
Me and Nolan killed a, what was that, a 8-footer?
Yeah. Yeah, last year. Got an 8-footer last year, and then we drew tags down south of Columbia, just a little ways. Was it Beth, WMA?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess east of Columbia, really, but we went down there and we drew alligator tags. So me, Craig, several buddies from church, we all went out and put out
no
lines.
idea.
Oh, we had no clue what we were doing. No clue. But it was fun.
Did you do the full swamp people thing?
Oh, yeah.
Shoot them in the head and all that stuff?
Yeah, we got all 3. So
22 right in the head.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Mine I shot with did I shoot mine with my 5.56, my AR?
I think so, yeah.
I think I may have. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
5.56 is not good for a skull mat on an alligator.
No, it's not. And that's what we were saying a while ago. I went and dropped mine off, and that's been 2 years, and I still haven't gotten it back yet, a skull mount. So I've called, and their number was disconnected. So everyone listening that needs some work done, how long have you had the same number? It's not going to be disconnected.
I've had my number for over 40 years. I've been in business since 1991 as the Bass Shop.
Wow.
But I've kept my same number since before then. So
yeah. So did you start off doing mostly bass, mostly fish?
I did. Back in the day, that was the first thing I actually learned to mount. And it turned out I was pretty good at it right off the bat. And long story about how that came about, I guess. My wife caught a bass on Toledo Bend. And this was like in the fall. It was like late October. And it was about a 6-pounder. And I was going to get it mounted for Christmas. And I started calling around to the taxidermist. And everyone that I called pretty much laughed at me. They're like, you're not going to get it for Christmas this year. You may get it for Christmas next year. So I decided I was just going to try it myself. I used to read Outdoor Life and Field and Stream, and there were all these articles in the back about doing this taxidermy kit and that kind of thing. And that's what I did. And I got it for her, mounted it for Christmas, and it turned out really good. So, it just kind of spread from there. And by the next year, I had done enough practice fish that I decided I was going to put up some posters and start it as a new business.
And that was 91?
That was in 90 when I did that, but it was in 91 when I actually opened up as the Bass Shop. And that's why I was the Bass Shop.
Yeah. Because
naively, I thought perhaps that I could just do bass and make a living doing bass. And it didn't take but the first year for me to realize that that's a very seasonal thing. And, that's a spring and summer job.
Yeah.
And also at that time, there weren't a lot of bass that were actually mounted in comparison to things like ducks and deer heads. So I learned how to do the other stuff too. But what got me in as the bass shop was that I went to the other taxidermists around here and found out that none of them liked doing bass. It was one of their least favorite things to do. And I did enjoy it. So I started doing bass for other taxidermists in this area. And that's really where the bass shop name came from, was I was the bass shop. And I mounted bass for several different taxidermists. And I did that through most of the 90s. And it was kind of like, just lightning in a bottle kind of, because I think it was in 92 that the first state record came out of Caney. And through the 90s, big bass exploded in North Louisiana. And there were literally hundreds and hundreds of bass mounts every year that I did through the 90s. And since then, it's tapered off back to the way it was, I guess, before I started my business. I do 40 or 50 a year. But back then, it was hundreds and hundreds a year that I did. It was the vast majority of my business.
Wow.
And but it was beneficial for me, because instead of struggling for several years to build my business, within 12 months, I basically had full-time business, all the fish I could do. And back then, I actually advertised and solicited business. And
you don't do that now?
I don't do that.
No.
I'm closer to tapering my business down versus actively trying to build it up. I have enough repeat business and word-of-mouth business. I'm not saying that I turn down customers. I mean, I don't. But I have all the business that I care to have right now. And it's my business is self-sustaining. It takes care of itself. And I don't anticipate that changing anytime soon. So
no, not by the work that not only you've done for me, but that you've done for other people that I've seen. I mean, I'm looking around this room. There's some pretty impressive stuff in here.
He's got 8 rafters full of horns in there, at least 8, and maybe more than 8.
It will be more than that by the time this season ends. By the time spring ends, I should have another 30 or 40 shoulder mounts in there. But that's just a standard year, and it's the same at every full-time taxidermy shop. I mean, I'm by no means am I the biggest. There are a couple of my buddies that have a greater volume of business than me, but again, I have all that I want.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's why another reason I wanted to come. I told you before we started this podcast, is like, this is just something that's easy on the ears for people to listen to, that we can offer a little bit of information on something that's just fun to talk about and interesting to learn. But every time I come in, my wife knows I'm a talker, but every time I come in, Jacqueline, she knows, she's like, you're not going by there for just a few minutes to drop something off or to pick something up. You're going to be there for an hour flapping your jaws. And that is always the case. I come in here and we get to talking about something, and it takes forever. And so that's kind of what I told you. This is just that's why I want to do it with you. I want to do it if you had a little bit of time. That way we could just have just good conversation. But back to the point, that's why I like bringing stuff here, because your stuff, it is the best that I've seen. And
well, thank you.
It is by far, that's the reason I keep bringing my stuff to you. And you make some of the deer that I kill look way better than what they normally would.
Well, I will say that I do, sincerely, I try to make every mount look as good as I possibly can. That's just my personal standard. I'm not saying everything's going to look perfect, and I can't fix every bit of damage on everything. There's some things that you can improve and some that you can't. But I don't have a standard of where I'm just going to say, oh, that's good enough. It has to be as good as I can make it before I stop messing with it. So thank you. And that's the way I do with everything that I mount. I want to make it look as best I possibly can.
Yeah.
So that's not always to my benefit, to be honest with you, because I spend a lot of time on some mounts, way more than most people would. But I can't do it any other way.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, no, and that's admirable for sure. Do you take shipments? Like if people wanted to ship you something, because we have people listening. We've only done a few episodes. We've only had the podcast up and rolling for just a short while, but a lot of our listeners, so we can go and pull up the numbers and see where people are listening from and where they're downloading this podcast from. We have them Texas, Missouri, Arkansas, Georgia. I mean, we have them. We had a couple from Florida on the last episode. So we have several from all over the place, and these cats listening, if they say, well, I killed something, I want to send to him, Is that something they can do?
If we weren't just having a conversation about all this, I would just say yes,
Yeah,
and just move on.
It's more to it.
But yes, I take shipments, and I get stuff shipped from all over. But every item is going to be a little bit different. So if somebody wants to ship something, they need to contact me first.
Yeah.
Let me know to expect it, and let me know exactly what it is they're shipping. And I can help them out as far as any requirements, as far as tagging and that kind of stuff that they may need. Plus, is this, for instance, African stuff or dry salted skins, which can be shipped easily? Or is this something that's like frozen, And if it is, then there's other things you need to do before you ship it. But yeah, back in the 90s especially, I took in a lot of shipments that were fish that were frozen. And I even had a guy up in New York that sent fish down here to me. But, you need to get them here in a couple or 3 days. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad result. So, yeah. And from back then, I could tell you, if you're shipping something that's frozen, don't ship it on Wednesday or Thursday, because if it's a day late, it's going to sit in the back of a UPS truck through the weekend. I've had many boxes of half-rotten fish that I had to go through, and I do not like messing with rotten, smelly stuff. But anytime you have to ship something that's frozen or fresh frozen, ship it out on a Monday, and a Monday only, to give it time to get here.
Yeah.
And if you're not within whatever a 2-day delivery zone, then ship it priority or whatever type of service you have.
Yeah.
But I can tell you these days, it's going to cost you a chunk of change to ship something. Shipping is outrageously high.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's definitely good taxidermists all over the place, not just here at the Bass Shop in Monroe, Louisiana. But if I was to move off, which I'm not, but if I was, some of the things that I don't know that you kill or you harvest and you cherish, even if it's a replica or something like that, you want it done right. That's a memory. I have mounts that I've had Joe Blow, tire kicker, do it before, and I have them tucked in a corner, or I have a few ducks I have in my closet that I just want to throw them away because they don't. The hunt was awesome. I have a redhead I have it mounted, and I don't have it anymore. I was like, it just doesn't look very good. The dude charged me, I think, $75 to do it, and that's probably 6 or 7 years ago. And it was worth $75 or maybe a little bit less. And so if you're going to do it, you want it done right.
Well, bring it in one day and let me look at it. Maybe there's something I could do to easily improve it.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's the case. So.
I had a skull melt I did one time. I tried to do it myself. I think it was in the house maybe 5 days. My wife was like, "What is that smell?" Let's just say it got moved out pretty quick.
Incidentally, I'm happy to help anybody as far as advice goes on doing things like their own skulls. I mean, I charge a premium rate for my skull mounts. And if you bring it to me, it's going to be pretty and it's going to be professional. But if you want to try it yourself, I'm happy to tell you how to do it. Yeah. And I do that at least a dozen times every year. I'll go through the steps of what you need to do. And some people get good results, and some people will say, "I'll never do that again. Next year I'll bring one to you." And because it's a lot to it, especially if you don't do it on a regular basis. So, but it doesn't bother me to help somebody out with that kind of stuff as far as advice and stuff. I get calls for that all the time.
Well, speaking of that, you've told me multiple times, not only today, but just in the past, you're not big on social media. That's not something that you truly enjoy, of the pictures and videos and all that stuff. But speaking of helping people out, you have a video on your Facebook that has helped me twice get out of a bind because I didn't have somebody to cape my deer. And the first time I watched it, and I was like, okay, that's not bad. And then I did it again. I went back and watched the video this past year, and that video is very helpful. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. To start where you started, I'm not like some social influencer. I don't listen to podcasts. I don't do a lot of social media stuff at all, but I do have a taxidermy page on Facebook for Bass Shop Taxidermy. And when Louisiana had their CWD regulations, several years ago when they put those in place, I looked to see what was available as far as videos and could not find one that I thought was sufficient. And my high school daughter filled me with her phone, and I made, which really, it turned out to be a very good video.
Yeah.
And it is on my Bass Shop taxidermy page, and it will take you through the entire process, and you can see exactly what you need to do. I'm impressed with myself on it. I mean, it's well done. You can see exactly what you need to see so that you don't mess up your deer skin if you are out of state. And of course the requirements are that if you're anywhere out of the state of Louisiana, you should have the skull removed before you bring your skin back into the state. You're not supposed to have any brain matter or spine, any of that kind of stuff. So you need your antlers sawed off, and you need your skin off the skull. And I have actually 2 videos, a video plus a shorter video that'll show you how to saw the horns off and how to package things up. And the second one's only 3 or 4 minutes long, but they'll take you through the entire process so you can bring in a mountable deer every time. And it's not that hard to do. If you've skinned a deer before, then you can follow the procedure and you can get the skin off of your skull without messing it up. So I would recommend that anybody that's in that situation watch the video before you try to cape out your deer.
Yeah.
So
Again, we posted on Facebook asking if anyone had any questions, because I don't know about you, Craig, I've never heard a podcast of someone talking to a taxidermist. I'm not saying it hasn't been done before, but I have not heard about it. And I was like, well, let's ask the people what questions. And so we had some funny questions and some serious questions and all that. But one of them we kind of hit on. It said, can you receive your sites shipments? You kind of hit on that about the tagging. You didn't say the site specifically, but you
right.
kind of touched on that.
Yeah, that's a tag that you have on a lot of animals that are protected in certain areas. I think like mountain lions and maybe bears and that kind of stuff. I don't encounter that often because we don't have those species down here.
Right.
But yeah, I can receive any of those. I mean, it's on the hunter to get the tag done and keep the tag with the animal before they ship it. So
Gotcha.
That's their requirement. And I would suggest that if you're out on a hunt for something like that or something that requires a sites tag, that you check with the area that you're hunting in, see what the requirements are, and do the proper tagging. And once you've done that, then you can ship it to me.
Yeah.
That's no problem.
Hey, I've seen mountain lion pictures every year on Facebook, North Louisiana. You've never mounted one?
I have. I haven't mounted one from Louisiana, though.
And they're usually black.
That's right.
The elusive Black Panther. Yeah. Do you believe? So we have that. We had someone said, do you finance? And that's kind of just a joke about.
Well, actually, I kind of do.
Okay.
I because I don't have a specific payment plan or anything, but I also don't care, what's best for you as far as how you want to pay for your animal. If you want to pay it out weekly or monthly, you're just not going to get it until it's paid for. But I tend to be more patient than most taxidermists on that. So I understand that taxidermy is a luxury item. So, if you're in a tight spot and you have to pay your electricity bill versus your taxidermy bill, I'm going to end up waiting. So that's the way it's been for 30 some odd years. And I'm okay with that because I kind of knew that going in. So, I do take credit cards and that kind of stuff too. So, in a way, I guess that's financing. You can pay it out however it's convenient for you. I mean, I have several people right now that send me regular payments, $50 or $100 a month. And, some guys I should just put on a permanent payment plan, for the rest of their life. I've joked with a couple of them about that, so because they've always got something here, and as soon as they get something picked up, they've got something else they start paying on.
Dropping it back off.
And that's fine. I mean, I can be patient and wait. As long as I know that you are interested in picking up your mount and you don't dodge my phone calls or anything like that, I can be very patient.
Yeah.
So I had a deer head that was picked up, and kind of circling back, it was actually shipped to Virginia earlier this year. Can we pause this for a
we
second?
can. We got business going on.
Probably not, actually. It's toll free. Yellow.
This is a recorded message from Xfinity.
There you go.
where was I?
Good car insurance.
Yeah.
I am migrating all my business over to my cell phone.
Yeah.
I have been doing that over the course of 8 or 10 years anyway.
Yeah.
All my business cards, that's the number in bold. All my little nameplates, that's my cell number now, because that's where the future is.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's convenient. I like this. It may sound selfish, but I like me being able to reach you on your cell phone, not because late hours or bother you or anything like that, which I probably do. But I like being able to go and text you pictures of the deer and the position I like how I want it. I like being able to do that, and that way, because you stated before, when you get ready for that, you don't have to print them off or save them somewhere. You can go and type in Nolan West. You can look at my to our text message and say, okay, here's this deer from Kansas. This is how he wants it.
Exactly. It's the best file system
Yep.
ever. Having my iPhone, I can look at our thread. I can see photos. I can see everything that we've done before.
Yep.
When I contacted you, what photo you sent me to pose this way or that way, it's excellent, for that purpose. And that's where the future of all my business is going to be. It's going to be in my cell phone. It wrapped back to what you were talking about earlier about shipping. I had a deer head that had been on my wall for almost 5 years. And I'd been contacting the guy about every 6 months, and he's like, yeah, I still want it. And I even offered to make trades or what have you. And I'd kind of forgotten about it because it was just stuck over in the corner. Well, last summer, I said, I'm going to call everybody that's got something on my wall. And I did that. And he was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about it. I don't even live in Louisiana anymore. He said, I want it. And that day, he sent me $100 through Venmo or something. And then he paid that deer off over the next several months. Because I told him, I said, look, this has been way too long. I said, if you're going to pay me every month, I'll take the payments and we'll get the deer head to you. But you have to pay me every month from this point forward. And he did. And he paid it off before Christmas. And he had a buddy come by and pick it up and take it to him in Virginia. So that's the best way to ship a mount, by the way, is have a human pick it up and transport it.
Yeah.
You're going to go through a lot more expense, and you're taking a big risk anytime you put a taxidermy item in a box and trust it to FedEx or UPS because they don't care.
I don't trust them with my $10 Amazon shipments from time to time.
Yeah.
So much less.
They don't know the meaning of fragile.
No.
So, you're always taking a chance. And I just hate to ship things that's mounted with them because if it's broken, even if it's covered by insurance, it's still going to have to come back to me to fix it. And then we're going to have to ship it again unless you do something different. But I do have taxidermy transport services. These are a couple of companies that specialize in transporting mounts, and they go all over the United States. And you don't have to box things. They have a trailer, and since they specialize in taxidermy mounts, they know how to put them in a trailer just like you would put it in your truck or whatever if you picked it up from my shop and took it home. And they will transport it across the country, along with dozens of other mounts from other taxidermists. They just kind of make a circuit. And that's the best way to ship stuff. So yeah, if somebody's out of state, they can ship an item to me. I can mount it. And then I would recommend a taxidermy transport service for them to get it returned.
Yeah.
But that ties in with the shipping and
Yeah.
also the financing part and me being
Yeah.
patient and taking payments. So
Yeah.
that wraps all that up.
That wraps it all. Well,
What's the next question?
Next question is someone said, they said, why does it cost $700 to get a deer head mounted? They said, I know the forms haven't jumped $200 more than what they used to be.
That is true, but forms cost more than double what they did before COVID. And a deer head, for example, doesn't just have a form. It has eyes, it has clays, pastes, glues, preservative, paint. There are a lot of materials, and all those materials have gone up. And the biggest one is actually shipping. We're back to shipping again. That has gone up more than anything else. I recently got an order for a couple of deer forms in, and 2 deer forms cost $96 for the shipping for a box with 2 deer heads in it.
That's $96 just for the shipping?
Just for the shipping. And which is, $48 a form. And I mean, that was from one specific supply company. But my regular supply company, which is over in Mississippi, that I get most of my stuff from, their shipping works out to be about $35 a form for a deer form. And this isn't talking about any of the other materials, but that's just on deer forms. So if your catalog price for a deer mount or a deer form is, $100 or whatever, I mean, it's actually going to cost you $135, $140 just to get that form in. And then you may have another $100 when you factor in all the other supplies, shop supplies and the eyes and the other stuff. But yeah, that's almost triple what the out-of-pocket costs were before COVID, say in 2018 or 2019. So it's gone up a lot. And the vast majority of that, what a lot of people don't realize, is shipping. And it's not just the shipping from my supply company to me. It starts way earlier than that. For instance, taxidermy eyes, just the little glass eyes. We have 3 or 4 major manufacturers in the United States that make those for taxidermy companies and for dolls and all this other stuff. Well, all of those companies order the blanks, which is just the clear glass crystals, from China. Okay, so they're having to pay container costs to have all that shipped overseas or from overseas. Then they have to do their part to it, and then they ship it to the next line up the chain, and there's shipping costs involved in that. And then it comes to my local supply company. There's shipping costs involved in that. And just talking with one of my suppliers, for every $100 that I spend on supplies, as much as $75 or $80 of that can be shipping costs. If you add that up cumulatively down the line, you got to edit that out.
No, you're good.
If you added that up,
Yeah.
down the line, I mean, because the shipping cost just gets tacked on, then tacked on again, and then tacked on again. Jeez. And by the time it gets to you, the end consumer, the vast majority of what you're paying for all that is shipping, because it's been shipped to multiple locations. Yeah. And everybody just passes that on to the next person down the line. Yeah. So, my shipping cost is high on the products that I get in to make my taxidermy mounts, but there's a lot of shipping costs that came before that. That's also factored into that. And I don't see that getting any better anytime in the future. Shipping costs will only continue to go up. And that's just my opinion. Yeah. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I hope you are, but I'm going to say you're probably not. It's kind of like lumber and everything else. Once they figure out that they can charge you this much and you're willing to pay it, they're not even, I guess willing, but once you start paying it and you're going to keep on paying it, they're not going to drop the price down. Same thing with shipping.
I think you just have your expertise in just what you do. You value your work. It's like me and Nolan do video and photography. There's not really I know taxidermy has pretty close to a set standard price. A lot of people charge, but with photography and video, it's kind of, it can fluctuate. Just depends on who's doing the work and what kind of talent you want handling your stuff.
And taxidermy is obviously not the only thing that's gone up. Everything is more expensive now.
It is.
It doesn't matter. Automotive work, anything, any construction cost, everything is high. And most of that's related to materials and supply. And, taxidermy is just no different than anything else. I mean, at $700, which is what I charge for a deer head, I'm really not making any more than I did 5 years ago, as far as my end.
Yeah, and you broke all the numbers down to me. The last time before you went up to 7, you were 600. What, you were 600?
I was 600 last year.
Yeah, and then you went up to 700.
Right.
But even then, at 600, you broke the numbers down. You're making less at 600 than, I don't remember the previous number before, but you're making less then than what you were.
Well, I was at 5 before COVID.
Yeah.
And I went up $100 in 2021, I believe. And, that was eaten up pretty quick with the continued rise in the parts cost and stuff. And again, shipping is a big part of that, because shipping is something that hasn't stopped going up. And, it's kind of an unrelated subject. I don't want to delve into it too deep, but I have a theory on that. And I think it's the fault of Walmart Plus and Amazon Prime, which I use and I love. But those two services get more and more popular every year. And they are basically under some sort of contract with the FedEx, UPS, and the post office, because, if you're a member of those, you get free shipping, okay? and they're sending you stuff for free that if I ordered it from, Jack's warehouse, it might cost me $40 or $50 for shipping. I can order it off Amazon and get it shipped for free. And, it's not actually free. That cost is being transferred to somebody else, which would be all the other shipping.
Your $96 in the forms.
Yeah, that's $96 in forms.
Yeah.
So yeah, and because those services are getting more popular, I don't see shipping costs for everybody else that's not using those services. I don't see it going down. I see it only continuing to increase. So, because the more you use Amazon, the more everybody else is going to have to pay.
Yeah, that cost is delegated to other people and transferred over.
They have to do it. They have to make it up somewhere. So
yeah. Well, it's the name of the game, and you just got to just roll with it. Speaking of shipping stuff, I do want to plug you real quick, Craig, because I looked and saw that beautiful hat. Do you still have any hats for sale?
I got a few, man. I'm about to order some more, actually. If you don't know, it's the goat rope. Goat rope. We've got black. We've got a what is that? Like a mossy oak,
like the
bonefish or something like that. That was
white.
kind of a mistake. I asked for mossy oak, thinking that all mossy oak was bottomland, and they sent me those bonefish ones, which are actually pretty nice. They're pretty popular.
Yeah, they look good.
Then we got the bottomland. That's kind of the three colors right now.
Yeah, and bottomland's huge. Bottomland has always been like the most popular camo pattern, I think. But since Matthews came out with their new lift and that bottomland camo, have you seen it?
Nope.
It's
nice.
Good. It's the 2024 Matthews bow, and you'll have to run down to Spotted Dog and check it out. It's fine as wine, but it's the full thing. I mean, you can get it in the limbs camo or the riser or whatever accessories, but the full camo bow and that bottomland camo, it looks good.
I've got to confess, I've probably seen it. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
You have to understand, this is another story, that I've had to retire from hunting specifically for over 25 years now. That's the trade-off to make a living doing taxidermy.
Yeah.
And, I don't think you can be a truly successful taxidermist if you spend all your time out hunting, because hunting is my busy time. That's when I have to be here.
Yeah.
And it changed my whole perspective on hunting and the enjoyment that I got from it when I became a taxidermist, because every time I went out to the woods, all I did was worry about work. I needed to get back home because I was missing business. And, this was when I was building my business in the late 90s and early 2000s. And finally, I realized that I just had to stop hunting because I was getting more stressed every time I tried to hunt than if I just stayed home. And that's the opposite of what hunting is about to me, which is getting away from all your troubles and getting out into the woods and being one with nature and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do that anymore.
Well, you hear the same with game wardens, like our friend Jordan Summit at Buck Commander. He films, and I went and filmed with him here a little while back, and I asked him, I was like, killed anything this year? And he's like, yeah, a camera, a bunch of camera batteries. That's about it. And so when you go and you get into a lane that you love and you want to make a living out of that, like hunting, if you love being outdoors and you love being with nature and you're a game warden, then you're not going to get to hunt as much as you want, because that's your busy. I mean, every year or all time of the year is busy time of the year. But like Jordan at Buck Commander, he don't get to hunt near as much as he'd like, but he's around it all the time. Right. So same thing with the taxidermist.
Yeah.
I've shot many deer with my red button.
Yeah, yeah. You filmed.
camera.
You filmed for Mojo. You've done all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Parker, you've done all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
You've missed a lot of hunting seasons.
Lots of hunting seasons.
But it's better than doing other things, though.
That's right. That's the reason why I got into self-filming.
Yeah.
So now I'm behind the camera still, but also get to hunt.
Which is the hardest thing ever.
It is.
It's
very
so difficult. That last deer, deer that you have in there hanging up now, I didn't even take my camera stuff up there. Me and him, we film weddings, we do everything. We had so much what we've been working on these last probably 6 or 8 months. We haven't had a second to breathe. And I just got back from Texas filming some stuff, and I was like, man, I don't even want to take my camera gear. I don't even want to. I don't care if I kill a big deer. I'm going to just enjoy the hunt and I'll take a DSLR to take a few pictures on a tripod, and that's it. And sure enough, first morning, 10, 20 minutes after daylight of the first morning, I killed that deer. Been perfect for a camera.
Well, that's what happened with me at Darbone. I went over to Darbone public land hunting this year, and I was like, I told Kimberly, I said, I'm just going to go up and enjoy the hunt. It's public land. There's probably going to be a lot of people. It's kind of rainy out. Went up there, got up in the tree, and sure enough, about mid-morning, gnarly, should have been an 8-point, but had this single big long spike on him. He came out 180 yards and Popped him.
Yep.
Didn't have it on camera though. I
That's
filmed
how-
everything after the shot,
Yeah.
so it's actually on the channel. But yeah,
Yeah, so go another plug. Go check that out because it was good. We have all kind of good fun stuff. Matter of fact, you ought to get a replica made of that big bass. So his caller ID, I'll have to show you in a little bit. But if he calls my phone, it is a wild fish. I mean, what was it, 10 something or 9 something? Do you remember?
it was big.
It was 9, 10, 10 and a half. It was something big.
Eggs had already dropped. You would have thought it still had the eggs in the belly, but we felt around and there was nothing in there. No way there was anything in there.
It was that someone's mouth was as big as a 5-gallon bucket. It was massive. So you ought to go get a replica made here.
Maybe we can catch it again this year.
Maybe so. Shoot, maybe we can. So we just got back from Kansas. We went up there bird hunting. Me, some buddies from church went up there, and everybody killed some birds. And so my question is, we put all of our birds in pantyhose, whether it's ducks, pheasants, it doesn't matter. We go get the head, kind of slide it up under the wing, keep all the feathers straight, and then just ease it down in the pantyhose, and then like wrap it up in some like Target bags or Walmart bags or whatever to keep it in there so it doesn't stick to the freezer and pull the feathers out. So that's what we do. Is that the best way to get you birds?
Okay, this is my personal opinion.
Okay.
No. I don't think the pantyhose does anything significant.
Okay.
It doesn't really help. Ed tucking the head under the wing does no good either. In fact, it just buckles the wing up a little bit, and you can smash your head a little bit more because you're cramming it under a wing a lot of times. Just what you want to do is make your duck as compact as possible, and typically that's just folding the head down against the back.
Okay.
Just kind of put it more or less on top of a wing instead of under the
Tucking
wing.
it.
And you want to put it in plastic. And this applies to any mount that you're going to, or any animal you're going to freeze. Treat it like you would a roast or a steak or any other organic piece of meat. You want to stop it from freezer burning. So therefore, you need to put plastic around it. And if you have a particularly wet or bloody bird, you could put some paper towels around it to help absorb some of that. But ultimately, the main thing is put it in a plastic bag, seal it up, and you can freeze it that way. I don't think it does any good to stick it in a piece of pantyhose. I know people do that, but it's really not helping anything. I mean, if you could only imagine all the fluffing and handling of the feathers that it's going to go through when it goes through the process, the washing and degreasing and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter if you put it in pantyhose to begin with or not.
Yeah.
Just as long as you compact it and you wrap it up in plastic, that's the best thing you can do. And I had a guy call me yesterday. He had 8 birds. Some of them he had had for 7 years. That's probably about 6 years too long, but you never know until you bring them in. I told him to bring them all in, and I would look at them and evaluate them. I can fix a lot of freezer burn, but they will get to a point to where you just can't do anything with them anymore. I mean, if they freezer burn solid, which I've had before, that you get to a point where you cannot rehydrate it. So if you're going to get something mounted, a few months, and then bring it in. Don't throw it in the freezer and forget it for years.
And I've done that.
Yeah. And
I don't like to, but I have done that. I don't do it now.
now my record actually, I mounted a bass one time that had been in a freezer for over 30 years. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. The lady didn't tell me at first. She said she wanted to get her son's bass mounted, and she brought it in to me, and I asked her about the name tag information on it, and he caught it in like 1970 something. He was 40 something years old. She was just getting around to it. So
how did it turn out?
It turned out good, actually. I think she had an old style freezer, and I have had bass that had been in a freezer for 6 months that were more freezer burned than her fish was, which just, you never know. I guess it was just wrapped up really well. I expected it to be a lot worse than it was. But yeah, one thing that is for certain, they're not going to get any fresher by staying in the freezer longer.
No.
So they will eventually get to the point, maybe with her exception, they're going to get to the point where you can't do anything with them. So But that's what you need to do with ducks. Get them in plastic and freeze them, bring them in within a few months, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Speaking of bass real quick, I want to circle back to that. With everybody, do you keep the bass? Do you not keep the bass? Is it you being a taxidermist, only a taxidermist, would you prefer a frozen live fish, a frozen fish, or pictures to do a replica?
Okay. This is my personal opinion, as everything I say is. You're better off bringing in a live fish or a frozen fish for skin mount. I personally don't think you are hurting any fish population, especially if you have a bass that's in the 9, 10, 11 pound range, because that's an old girl by that time. I mean, she's done her duty for several years, and she's put 1 million eggs in whatever body of water. Her genetics are spread all over that lake already. So you're not really going to hurt the population by taking that one fish out. Her best chance is if you let her go, maybe she makes it one more year before she goes belly up, all by herself. Because, they're getting old. They're getting close to dying anyway by the time they get really, really massive. But your cost-wise, you're cheaper getting a skin mount done versus a replica because of the parts cost. A replica bass with the shipping can easily go way over $300 just to get the blank and the mold in before I even do any work. And it's about the same amount of work as what's involved with a skin-mounted fish. And I think skin mounts are $425 this year. And they went up, like most things did. So you're going to save a little bit of money. You're going to get your actual fish back. And your fish, as long as you maintain it and take care of it, will last longer than you will. It will be good for many, many decades. There's one thing about bass in taxidermy that's different from every other item is that bass are totally renewable in the future. They can be stripped down and repainted. If you damage fins, they can be replaced. You can fix anything on a bass. And, 100 years from now, that bass can look just as good as the day you first had it mounted if you've got somebody around that can restore it for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different or no harder to restore one than it is to mount one or to do a replica. It's actually more along the line of doing a replica when you're doing a restoration on an old bass. Same process. So,
can people ship you if, say, someone had their first bass and it just didn't look good? Is that something that you take? People could ship that to you, or not even ship, but bring that to you, and you restore that?
Yeah. Just like you could bring me that redhead out of the closet,
and you'd make it look way better.
Well, I can't promise on that because it's not a bass, but I can tell you sight unseen, I can make anybody's bass look better.
Yeah.
Because I've done so many of them.
Yeah.
Like I say, I have a couple in the hallway now that if you haven't seen them, you should see them before you leave.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to have to do full fin replacements on all of them, and both of these bass are probably 80 years old, 70 to 80 if I had to guess.
Wow. Jeez.
But when I'm done with them, they'll look brand new. So, I mean, I can say that with confidence. I can fix anybody's fish. So, other things, usually I can repair it, but some things are beyond repair when it's dealing with fur and feathers.
Yeah.
But there's options on just about anything. I mean, I would say ducks are the less renewable of any taxidermy item. If you don't clean them and maintain them, they will get to a point where there's nothing you can do to get them back clean and keep them looking good. But otherwise, you can fix most things, patch it, and make it better than what it was.
Yeah. On the ducks, if you want to clean them just really, really quick, just a simple brush, just kind of air dust them off, or Swiffer.
I recommend, and what I use here in the shop is a dry paintbrush, just like a house paintbrush. And I have an old one that's kind of worn out, a little fuzzy on the ends. It's still soft, which you want, but it's got a little more firmness than, say, a feather duster. So you can knock a little more dirt off with it. And it also is good for getting in little cracks and crevices. It's also, same brush is great for deer heads and fish and everything else. That's one of the most important things you can do to any of your taxidermy mounts is to dust them off regularly.
Yeah.
I mean, you put them on the wall, and even from 10 or 12 feet away, they look okay until you walk up to them and then they've got a half-inch layer of dust.
Yeah.
You know, when you get them in your hands, you're like, my gosh, I can't believe it was that dirty.
Yeah.
And, you know, that just happens. That happens in here. If somebody waits 2 or 3 months to pick something up, I've got to dust it off before I give it to them, because dust accumulates quickly. And I don't have a filthy shop by any means.
No, it's very clean.
But it's the same in anybody's house.
Right.
You know, if you do regular house cleaning, just make dusting off your taxidermy mounts part of your regular house cleaning. And if you don't, do it at least a couple times a year anyway.
Yeah. Is it like a nylon brush, like with the nylon bristles, or like the tan or brown like hair bristles?
I use literally like a big wide 4-inch brush. That's a house painting brush. You know, just I guess it's nylon.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, just any old cheap brush that's not too stiff. But like I say, it's better at getting in cracks and crevices that you're going to have, like around a deer's ears or eyes, and in a fish, like up around his mouth and gills. You know, you can knock more dirt off with that than you can with a feather duster.
Yeah.
So
You told us about the 30-year-old bass and the 1970-something model deep freeze, and that you don't really love taking those. But I know you have a few stories of some things that you don't want to encourage people to bring, but I would love to hear some of your funny or weird or whatever wild taxidermy stories. You good with that?
yeah, we talking about this now?
Now, I'm going to go pee real quick, and then we'll be right back. So, all right, y'all hang on, and we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back here in just a second.
Okay, what did I do wrong here? There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Yep, good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I want to go into some of the wild stories.
Okay, I told you one of these earlier. Since you want to know the weirdest things I've ever mounted, the first one that came to mind was something I did many years ago. And let me just say that if this guy came in today, I would send him away. I wouldn't do it. But many years ago, I did this. He brought in a rattlesnake that he had chopped the head off of. He didn't have the head. He just had the majority of the body. And then he brought in a squirrel. And he wanted me to mount the rattlesnake coiled up like a cobra. And he wanted me to put the squirrel's torso on top of the rattlesnake's body and blend them together. And then I had to put slitted snake-type eyes in the squirrel and put snake-type fangs in the squirrel and just make some monstrosity. And I did. And for what it was, I guess it turned out okay. But that's not what I'm here for either.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here to make animals look lifelike. And, you know, sometimes I have a hard time saying no on things, but these days it's easier for me too.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like to do novelty stuff, you know, and I still have people that call me. I'll have somebody call me at least once a year wanting me to do something that's what I would consider to be an obscene mount or something like that, you know. And that's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Again, find somebody else to do that kind of stuff. And incidentally, just a side note to that, I don't do pets either. I get those kind of calls.
Really?
Yes. I have mounted back in the 90s. I actually mounted a man's favorite hunting beagle for him, and he loved it. But this is the thing, and I can tell you, when you have a pet, that's especially one that you've had that's gotten old and died, first off, it is a horrible animal to try to skin out because the condition of this animal is going to be pretty wretched. You know, they're all fat and overweight, and usually by the time they are so old that they die or pass away, their skin's in horrible condition anyway. But you know, it's just like I used to raise golden retrievers a long time ago, and I can tell you, I can put one of my golden retrievers in a pen with 100 other golden retrievers, and I'll know exactly which one is mine because I know exactly the way that she held her eyes and her ears and her facial expressions and all of that. And that's the way you are with your pet, okay? And I can make your golden retriever look like a golden retriever, but it's not going to look like yours. It's going to look like a golden retriever. And I think the risk of you getting it back and being disappointed is a risk that I don't want to take, especially with some prized possession, something that somebody loves like that. There are companies that specialize, especially in small pets, that do freeze-dry work and that kind of stuff. And that's what I refer people to. If they want a pet done, they can call a freeze-dry company, and they can pretty much preserve this animal without doing most of the skinning that a taxidermist would normally do. So yeah, I don't need those calls either.
That sounds like
pets.
that I would not be interested in doing someone's pet. That sounds very weird. Thinking like it's one thing, and I know an animal's an animal, but when I'm looking at like the bobcat or that sheep or the elk or that pintail, anything that beautiful black squirrel, I may put in my case and take home with me. But you look at some of these animals, it's an animal that I know is still an animal, but we went out and we hunted and we killed it and we ate it. But like a beagle or like one of my bird dogs or something, I'm not interested in.
I can tell you, people love their animals so much they just can't bear to totally part with them.
So you didn't tell me the full story, but you mentioned something about a beaver.
Oh, well, that was just another project that I probably wouldn't do. A guy wanted a beaver butler. He wanted a beaver standing up on its hind legs with its little paws out, and I mounted it for him. And actually, I didn't tell you the full story. He was going to put a little silver tray in its paws and put it at his entryway of his house so he could throw his change and his keys in the little tray when he walked in. He was actually going to a seamstress, and I never saw it, but he said he was going to have a little tuxedo made to put on the beaver. He was going to some seamstress here in Monroe, and they were going to make a little tuxedo to put on his little beaver butler. So I don't know if he had that done or not, but anyway, again, I don't really like those kind of projects.
Yeah, so everyone listening, he has zero interest in mounting your novelty sci-fi things, not at this stage in his career. But if you want a realistic, like that axis deer, that thing is gorgeous.
Yeah, another one, a squirrel riding a raccoon like a bucking bronco. No more of those kind of things.
So once we hit the end button and we stopped recording, that's what I was going to ask you. I'm like, you think you could mount a raccoon and a squirrel for me?
Hey, I got a good one. Have you seen that? There's a guy on TikTok the other day that had he had a wolf kind of thrown over his shoulder like a pillow. Did you see that? Have you ever seen it?
No.
It's like here's your image.
I don't do social media, so.
Well, I didn't know if you'd ever seen anything like this. So I guess it's like the head and the skin, and he made it to like a stuffed animal.
Let me see.
So I guess you could drape it over your couch or something.
I have seen similar. That looks like he's just holding a rug. That looks kind of like that red fox rug, like he's just got it laid over his shoulder.
But they puffed
no,
it up?
I mean, it was actually puffed up.
Yeah. Like a what are those?
Like a stuffed animal.
Yeah, what are those stuffed animals that we used to have?
Beanie Baby?
Beanie Babies.
Did you have Beanie Babies?
Yeah, Beanie Babies.
Yeah.
Wow. They had the little red star, wasn't it? Had a little red star tag that went in its
I don't
ear.
know because I never had Beanie Babies.
That's right.
But I had kids.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
they had
That's right.
Beanie Babies.
So,
I didn't know you had Beanie Babies.
Oh yeah, and Hot Wheels. One of my favorite pair of socks that I wear is a black and red pair of Hot Wheels socks.
Did you have any Barbies?
I did not.
Beanie Babies?
I did not. Not any Barbies. My sisters did. Shoot, I wish I'd have kept them. Things they're worth some money
Beanie
these
Babies?
days. Yeah.
I've seen them. Yeah, they sell them on eBay.
Yeah, crazy high numbers. So yeah, if you want something mounted that's lifelike, like that bobcat or the axis deer, or even that hornet's nest. Did you do that hornet's nest?
Yeah, that's a long story, but I did.
That's awesome.
That's a family heirloom item. So
Okay.
It's over 40 years old.
Jeez.
Actually, it's almost 50 years old.
Wow.
So
It's very cool.
yeah, I was involved in the harvesting of that hornet's nest when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So
you told me when you got started. I'm assuming you still had. Did you have some kind of school or any kind of certifications, anything like that you have to keep up, or you had to go through, or anything?
Actually, in the state of Louisiana, there are no requirements or licenses to be a taxidermist. Anybody can pretend to be a taxidermist if they want to be. You do have to have a business license if you're going to run a business. And if you're going to take in migratory birds, which would be ducks and geese, you have to have a federal permit for that. That's very important because, those are like federal laws and stuff. So.
Yeah.
But aside from that, in the state of Louisiana, there's no taxidermy licenses or anything like that that's required. I got my first interest in taxidermy when I was a kid. I'm not from here. I was from LaSalle Parish. And there was an old man that did taxidermy out of his carport. And this was back in the 70s, early 70s. And my granddaddy was a big hunter. He had several mounts done. And I would ride my bike over to this guy's house because we lived out in the country. And I was just fascinated. He'd have this animal or that animal under his carport that he was working on. And it was honestly, looking back, it was horrible taxidermy. Even for the time, it was like really dated. For the 70s, he was doing work that was the quality of what typical taxidermists did in the 30s and 40s, but just antiquated methods. But it was fascinating. And then when it came time that I had my first bass that I wanted to mount, I think it was a VHS tape that you could buy or rent or something like that. And that's what I did. I learned how to do the bass by watching a videotape of somebody else doing a bass that was sold for that purpose. And then as I learned to do other items, what I would do would be I would get tapes. There was a supply company that actually rented these tapes. Most younger people today won't remember that kind of time from, but this is before CDs or DVDs or anything like that. You had actual physical big old tapes, and just like you would rent a movie on tape at whatever your video store was, and you'd have to take it back the next day, you would rent it, they would mail it to you, and you had 2 weeks, and then you had to return it, or they would charge you full price for it. And, I remember the first time I mounted a pheasant. I rented 4 separate tapes from 4 different taxidermists and watched all their techniques. And then I would take what I thought was the best from this one and combine it with the other one. And, because every time you see a different taxidermist do something, you're going to pick up a technique or a hint or something that's better than what the other guys was doing. And, that's always been a way to success for me. And then once I got my foot in the door that first year and I met these other taxidermists that were already in business, you start learning from them. And that's where most taxidermists are going to truly learn, is from sharing information with other taxidermists and from just experience of doing it yourself and figuring it out. Anybody that tells you that there's only one way to do something in taxidermy is absolutely wrong. If they're trying to teach you something and they say you have to do it this way, you should just walk out and leave them, because that's an indicator that they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, there are multiple ways to do practically everything in taxidermy. And also, I have had several customers that have gone out of state somewhere and paid thousands and thousands of dollars to go to a, quote, taxidermy school, where they went through a 2-week or 3-week or 4-week course and that kind of stuff. And they could have got exactly the same information for renting $50 worth of DVDs this day, and done just as well. Because all they're doing is seeing one person's technique that's just decided they're going to charge people to come watch them mount things. And, that's really a waste of money. You will do better, and these days probably by YouTube. I do know enough about social media that I know what YouTube is, and there's a ton of stuff on YouTube, and if somebody comes in, and this actually happened, it was somebody who wanted to do a tan skin, just a soft tan skin, you could probably pick up, a dozen different techniques on how to tan a skin or tan a hide just by watching free YouTube videos. You don't have to do anything else. But that doesn't mean you're going to get great results the first time you try something,
Trial and error.
Yeah. You need experience, and that's one thing that I think sets me apart from most of the other taxidermists, even ones that have been in this for a long time, is figuring out how to fix things, okay? That's one thing that I do think I'm better at than most taxidermists, is if you bring in an animal that has a flaw or a problem, I generally know how to take care of that and fix it and make it better than what it is, whether it's cuts or, just bad spots or whatever. I can generally work that out and make it look better.
Yeah.
So, not that that's what I desire, but again, when I have an animal that I'm working on, I have to, in my mind, make it look the best I possibly can. And so I'll do a lot of repairs that another taxidermist might not attempt. They may just let it slide. Oh, well, it came in with this broken on it. I'm just going to leave it that way. And it's something that I'll go to the trouble of fixing. And that also on that tangent, antler repairs. I'm not cheap on antler repairs, but I do a lot of antler repairs, and I still do a lot for other taxidermists. There are taxidermists in this area that if they have a broken antler that the customer wants repaired, they'll mount the deer, they'll bring it to me, and I'll do the repair for them and get it back. That does bring up a topic that I would like to discuss a little bit.
Bring it on.
Most taxidermists, or most customers, don't understand is that items slide between taxidermy shops on a regular basis. And the main reason for that is that taxidermy is not a job the same way that being, say, a mechanic or an electrician is a job. Taxidermy is about 10 different jobs that are all combined under the taxidermy heading, okay? The skill set that you need to mount a bass is completely different than the skill set you need to mount a deer head, and that's totally different than what you need to do a duck, and that's different than life size, et cetera, et cetera. And you may be good at most of those things, but there's always going to be one or two things that you're either not very good at or you just detest doing. And for me, for example, you talked about alligator hunting earlier. I despise alligators. I don't. But I have a taxidermy buddy that'll help me out if somebody needs an alligator mounted, you know. They will do, my friend will do the fleshing and some of the basic assembly, and then I will do all the final positioning, and then I'll do the painting and the cleanup work on it, which I don't mind doing. But that happens a lot. That's how I actually got into my business to begin with, because
Right.
I was the bass shop, because these other guys hated doing fish. And with the exception of one taxidermist in this area, at one time or another, I did everybody else's fish at one time or another, for North Louisiana. I think at one time I was doing fish for 16 or 17 different taxidermists.
Wow.
Within 100 miles of here. And but stuff slides around a lot. And even if you're just using bits and pieces and parts, you know, like you may have somebody that boils your deer skulls for you. Or there's a taxidermist that one of his specialties is he is a fleshing service, and he fleshes deer hides out for 2 or 3 other taxidermists. And he's a buddy of mine. You know, that kind of stuff happens all the time. Your stuff moves from here to there. Just depends on what it is. So, you know, the person you brought it to is responsible for it, but, you know, it's rare that that person is 100% on everything going to have your stuff and do your stuff themselves. It does slide around some, just depending on what it is.
Yeah.
So
That's not a bad thing, though. I mean,
No.
we say all the time, teamwork makes the dream work.
And that's it. And you know, most of the, you know, that was when I got in the business, it was my business to be friends with all the other taxidermists.
Right.
And there is some backbiting between the old guys. And, you know, there was a lot of them that didn't get along. But I came in with the desire to get along with every one of them. And I think I accomplished that. And I would say that essentially every taxidermist around is a friend of mine, you know, and has been for decades. All the old guys. I get along with all of them because it was my business to get along with them. You know,
Right.
I was there to help them out. And, you know, instead of, I don't look at them as competition, basically.
Awesome.
So, you know,
And that's how me and Craig, that's how we are with our video stuff. We both have our own production companies, and anytime I need help with something, he's my first call, and anytime he needs help with something, I'm his first call. And so it works. We've been doing it for a while like that, and it works out really, really good.
that's the way it ought to be.
Yeah. Plus, he's way better than me, so I like working with him. That way, I can watch and learn.
We're all different styles.
I steal all of his secrets.
So,
So me and Craig, we're really into the pictures and the videos and that kind of stuff. But I've seen something stirring around on social media that Craig, have you seen it? It's like I don't remember. I would plug the guy, but I don't remember what it is. But you send him a picture of your deer, and he will go and replicate that into like an actual piece of artwork. Like he'll digitally go and create like a scene. So say
he's
this
actually painting it.
is he painting it?
I think so.
Okay, that may be what it is, but it's not HD artwork. That's not what it is.
Could be AI now.
It could be. It could be AI. It really could be. But he goes and you just send him a picture of your deer. If you don't want to pay $700 to get your deer mounted, and you want that deer, you want some artwork of that one, you take a picture of this deer just like that, and you text it or email it to him, however he goes about it, and he will go and you tell him the size of print. If you want a 20 by 30 or you want a 4 by 6, you tell him the size you want, and he can go in and do that. And it's a cheaper alternative than taxidermy, and it has your animal in the wild in a scene that you choose and you want. With that being said, what do you see the future of taxidermy 10, 20, 30 years from now? Do you think everything, the way you're doing it and the way that we're paying to get stuff done, do you think it'll still be rocking and rolling like that?
In this area, I do. I mean, I can say that, when I first started, there were people that were saying, bass replicas, that was going to be the way of the future. Nobody would mount bass anymore, in 10 years, that would be a thing of the past. That's never happened. The replicas, they're just another tool for taxidermy, but they are not nearly as popular as skin-mounted fish. Probably 5% of bass mounts are replica mounts. They never took over. And I think that'll be the case. I mean, I have seen the same kind of thing happen. I mean, it's almost absurdly comical with artificial deer heads. There were a company or two that were selling artificial deer heads that they kind of looked like a rigid stuffed animal in a way. It was like, or kind of like a decoy, like a hunting decoy. They look like those, but you could put your antlers on them, and there was a company selling shoulder mounts like that for a while. It was like $200. You just screw your antlers on the top and voila, instant deer head. And I don't think that ever took off, and I don't think it ever will. But the fate of taxidermy is tied closely to hunting and fishing. So as long as people can hunt and fish, there's going to be a need for taxidermists, and probably more so in the future if hunting and fishing becomes more elite or restricted. If it's harder to do, that makes more things a trophy. So yeah, I think all that's really tied together. But our industry is, in my mind, totally tied to hunting and fishing. There are little areas that that may be branched out to other things, some commercial stuff or what have you. Just like, Cabela's or somebody like that has, you can go and buy a pheasant mount. You've been able to do that for 40 years from them. That comes off of some farm, just pay them $150. Some of them kind of look okay, and some of them are just totally ratty, But, you could do things like that just for decoration. But yeah, I think most of our business is going to come from hunters and fishermen, just like it always has. But to be honest with you, 30 years from now, I'm probably not going to care much because I don't know if I'll last that long. I'm getting old as it is. So.
Oh, you'll be out there catching them crappie.
I hope so.
Be out there getting on them. Speaking of that, at Caney, they've been catching some crappie out in some deep water and some bass too, which I know they do every time this time of the year. Mm-hmm. But somebody said 40-something foot deep, they were hammering the crappie the other day.
That time of the year.
The big bass have been turned on at Caney for a couple of weeks now.
Ooh, there's been some bags pulled out.
Yeah, I'm ready to take that live scope. I haven't been out yet, but I'm ready to take that live scope out with that A-rig or that jerk bait, and I'm ready to see some tail separation on a fish at about 80 or 90 feet and throw that A-rig out there by him.
I'm ready to go up to Bussy in the kayak this year, man.
I'm ready for the wind to not throw you into the bank at Bussy this year in your kayak. Well, all right, that about wraps it. I'm about to go eat lunch with my grandparents. Thank you all for listening to the Spotted Dog podcast. But Craig, I wanted you to plug what you do and your social media stuff. You have some awesome things going on.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube, go to youtube.com/thegoatrope. You can just type it in there. It looks like a white goat emblem. You can't really miss it. And social media as well, the Goat Rope. The Craig Roberson's more pretty much what I do on Instagram and that kind of stuff, but TikTok and all that. But yeah, go to YouTube and check it out.
Well, if you get an animal or a fish that you need stuffed, I'm here for that. So, like I say, I don't do a lot of social media stuff. I do have the Bass Shop Taxidermy page on Facebook. If you have a Facebook account, you can find that. And I do have a lot of photos that you could use for examples and reference. And if you wanted to do that before you brought an animal in, you can say, I want it done like this photo. Show me that. And that'll streamline the process when you drop something off. And, of course, I do have the skinning video for that if you need that done. So that's about it. So I'll just be here.
Bookmark.
You guys go fishing, and I'll be here if you catch something big. Bring it to me.
I appreciate your wisdom in this, that I can trust you. So that first deer that or the deer last year that you did for me, that one in Kansas, I told you asked where it was going to be and everything, and I told you it's going to be probably 12 or 14 foot high on the wall. Mm-hmm. And the way that the deer, his horns were, it wasn't very wide, but he had just crazy stuff everywhere. And you told me like his chin needs to tuck down. If he's being that high and you want to show all the character, you need to point with his chin kind of tucked down. And I was like, man, that's going to look so weird. That's not going to look good. But I trusted you and I did it. There's no way I'd want another deer. It wasn't like that. Even my deer this year, I told you I was like, do the same thing. So
deer looks awesome.
Huh?
Deer looks awesome.
It looks so good. And it looks even better when it's, again, 12 plus foot high up there. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, some of the other deer that we have up at the camp on the wall, they just don't look as good as that one. Number one, because you didn't do them. But number two, having that little chin tucked down, that nose tucked down just a little bit, I mean, it's just, you could see every square inch of that thing.
Well, thank you. I try to help you out because, you've got to look at it a lot longer than I do, so I want you to be happy every time you see it. So
well, I'm very happy
for you.
I'm very happy in the work you've done. And again, I thank you for coming on. Thank you all for listening. Again, check out the Goat Rope. Check out the Bass Shop here in Monroe, Louisiana for anything. As long as you don't need a cobra-looking rattlesnake with a squirrel on top holding a katara or some kind of weird sword, then this is your man. So again, thank y'all for listening. Happy fishing, happy hunting. We'll be talking to y'all soon. See ya.